Okay. I can't say how many times I've tried to make these videos in the past or to make a video, but my goal at this point in time, now on January 14th of 2025, is to begin my humble attempts at a YouTube channel that covers a number of topics, namely pertaining to my own personal experiences with mental health and disability, specifically my struggles with finding an accurate diagnosis for the conditions that I have dealt with for most of my life, which until July of last year, I had been previously misdiagnosed for over 20 years of my life since I was about a teenager and really began to present hardships externally that, warranted medical intervention. And at that time, I was given a completely wrong diagnosis that I'll talk about at some point in the future. And it was only until over 20 years later, because I'm about to be 40 this year, that at 39, I finally received what I believe to be an accurate diagnosis of what I have dealt with for my entire life, or at least the majority of it, depending on what condition I'm referring to. So last year, I had the privilege of having a psychological evaluation with a certified psychologist at a practice in the state that I live in. And I picked this person specifically because they were highly recommended and well versed in the different conditions I was willing to explore. I was willing to still put on the table my previous misdiagnosis because I really wanted a chance to, be re-diagnosed at a point where I was a full-grown adult with the ability as much as possible to advocate and articulate for myself. Whereas before, when I received the diagnosis, it was in a real state of duress after severe bullying and basically a breakdown from that bullying. And I was only 15 years old, and I was not fully mentally, emotionally, or even verbally capable of articulating the things that I was experiencing at the time, that it has taken me over 20 years to now finally be able to articulate. So the diagnosis I was given last year, and I'm not naming the place I was given just because I don't want to reveal any of that personal information. I think there are lots of great resources out there in whatever state you live in. While I had a wonderful experience with my doctor and my psychological examination that took over a month and a half in total, with 3 various appointments and different lengths in duration, which I can talk about in another video. But long story short, because Lord knows I can info dump, if it wasn't already painfully obvious, which for most of my life apparently it hasn't been to most people, I was diagnosed with Autism Spectrum Disorder. Obviously, given my verbal fluency and the fact that I have only received this diagnosis at 39 years of age, I have made my own kind of sub-diagnoses that I'm probably a hyperverbal autistic person. I never had any sort of communication deficits as a child. If anything, throughout my psychological profile, I scored, and this is not meant as a brag, but it's just meant as an atypical, I believe, data point, highly superior verbal proficiency on that portion. But where I struggle in my autism is obviously emotional regulation and interpersonal effectiveness and some executive functioning issues. So, on the whole, because of I think my verbal fluency and throughout time, specifically college on, I become quite adept at masking. I've been able to progress with many hurdles and stumbling blocks along the way, until I really could no longer progress any further. And I don't intend for this video to be super long, so everything I'm kind of alluding to is a little bit high level because I hope to be able to talk about these things in time in slower bits in a more organized capacity when I'm able to handle them, because a lot of this journey has been obviously very traumatizing. Because in addition to the autism spectrum disorder that I was diagnosed with, I was also diagnosed with PTSD, as a result of the, I guess, ongoing trauma and lack of early on assistance, which is something that is not uncommon with a lot of autistic people. It was ruled out that I had ADHD, and a lot of the symptoms that I was experiencing that kind of masked similarly to ADHD, like problems concentrating and forgetfulness, brain fog, a lot of that came later in my life and was due to compounded trauma and is also a side effect of PTSD, I have come to learn. So those are my two main things. I've also had some other, no other official diagnoses of mental illnesses, but sort of certain traits of other categories that I'll get into at a later time. But I think right now the main things I'm really tackling with are the understanding and realization that I am autistic, and trying to kind of reprogram and unmask myself after pretty much a lifetime of trial and error learning to mask. And so part of this video, while I want to keep it short, part of my real goal in making this is to not mask on camera, because even on camera, I notice I have a very innate ability from years of survival to just turn it on and be like, hey, everybody, how are you? And really act like I'm this super hyper social, just non-autistic person when in fact I am. And so I'm trying to be comfortable and mindful as much as possible of being my authentic self in as many safe spaces as that's possible. And while in public, I do often still have to mask because people prefer certain niceties or what they perceive for social interactions. In my own private space and in my own private time, the things that I would like to release in terms of content, I would like them to be both accurate, a reflection of who I am as a person, and not the person that I've tried to be to fit into society. Also because that taxes me, and I don't want these to be even more taxing than just the process of making them. If I don't have to mask through them, then hopefully I can endure all the other mess that comes with trying to edit a video and do all these things that at almost 40, my elder millennial self really struggles to do. I fully accept that I have become middle-aged and I'm slowly losing touch with technological reality, and a lot of that's by choice. A lot of it is because I also have a child that is going to be 5 this year, and 2 years ago in the summer was diagnosed with profound level 3 autism at just a little over 3 years of age. So that sort of preceded my own journey in finding out that I was autistic, because my child has presented very profoundly autistic or having higher support needs than I presented as, although I don't think I didn't present with support needs. I just think that my support needs were unidentified or misidentified because I grew up in the mid 80s, early 90s, and girls being autistic was not a thing, especially girls that presented like me. So I would also say that having a child who is who deals with greater struggles than I have, has also helped to start my journey on understanding, like, wait a minute, like, these things are also what I deal with. That a lot of my child's diagnosis was what gave me the courage to eventually save up the money for over a year to afford a psychological evaluation, because that is another huge barrier, unfortunately, in our medical system, is that psychological evaluations, from what I understand, are not cheap. Mine was a couple $1,000s that I had to save up over a year because I am on a very limited income as a single mom with support, like physical support from my parents, my daughter's grandparents, and we both very much need that because of our conditions, and we work in a very happy family unit that way. So my goal in these videos going forward, since we're already at the 11-minute mark, is just to really try to share my personal journey and anecdotes that I think may be relevant to add more to, I think, the multifacetedness of autism, and not the sort of over stereotypical, sometimes even misrepresentative. I'm not going to say it's not representative, but at times it has been, I think, hyperbolic, and created really harmful stigmas towards people in the community. So I would just like to be able to share my insights through myself or about my child without revealing my child's identity, because I do believe that they should remain off the internet until they are fully old enough to handle the ills of social media and to consent to have their image on the internet. So you'll only be seeing my face from here on out in various spaces, in probably various states of dress. I don't really wear makeup anymore. I washed my hair yesterday, but I didn't brush it, so that's why it looks like this kind of frizzy mess, because I am despite what many may think, a mixed child of a native Andean person and an American Irish person, Irish American person, and I got this phenotype. But I got a lot of stems that I need to talk about. They're not super visible on here. I think the Apple camera makes them prettier, and I'm not showing you my fingernails because I don't want to make this a horror film. But I think that there's a lot more that I can share, and it's taken me a lot of time to even be able to get to this point and put out something, because I have this like fake, or this idea of what it needs to be, that from just the first initial attempt to put a video out there, it's never going to be that. And so I just have to start where I'm at and build from there, and stop putting it off till another day, because then that day may never come. So I decided today would be the first day, and today will be the first day I start the introduction of this channel, and that the main focus is for me to share my personal experiences in discovering that I'm autistic at almost 40 years of age, what a lot of those struggles and symptoms have looked like for me, the knowledge that I've gained as a single mother of a more profoundly autistic nonverbal child, and then also probably from time to time other things that may pique my interest, depending on how niched this channel gets, because I know there's some algorithm I have to deal with. Then I may create another channel, but that just really depends on how varied my interests become, because I do have interests quite a lot, but I would say right now my predominant special interests are autism themselves and how it has impacted my life and my daughter's, because that is the reality that we are both living in every day. And I guess this is sort of I would attribute this, although by no encouragement of them, like, so I'm not saying they made me do this, but I would attribute this little mini video to Orion Kelly, that autistic guy. I had messaged him, emailed him about, I think it was late November, and he responded to me in early December, and I still have not responded to him because I haven't had an internet presence per se, because I haven't really known what to do. And I do believe I have a lot to say. I do have a lot of insight. I hate to say that I'm articulate, because that seems like a weird word to use, but I do think that I have a level of articulateness that could be a benefit to the autistic community, especially considering some of us who may struggle with language abilities more profoundly than I do, even though all of our experiences are different. So it's not by any means to say that my experience is the only experience. It's just that I hope, being a mother of both a more profoundly autistic child with someone with higher support needs than myself, and as someone who has grown up for most of their life undiagnosed and misdiagnosed, that I can provide a lot of just further insight to help in whatever this autism journey of discovery that I think many generations are going through right now. There's the younger generations that are receiving the early interventions that will hopefully really set them up for more success than a lot of us older generations who either received therapies that were counterintuitive or productive to our personal development, or failed to receive any intervention at all, such as myself, and just learned the hard way, which I don't think, I mean, everybody probably learns the hard way, but it was just a different hard way, a way without knowing necessarily that I had a disability, and just continually throughout my life thinking that I was broken and not good enough because for some reason I could not be like everybody else no matter how hard I tried. So I think my dog's barking, if you could pick that up, is a sign that this is a long enough video and I can upload this and we can go from there. Until next time, I hope you're able to like and subscribe if you think this might be anything worth your time. Have a nice day, wherever you are.